district just west of the Denver metro area. I've been teaching for 24 years, and Tanya, you've been teaching for.
This is my 28th year.
Yeah, we both teach elementary general music, K through 5, and we co-host a podcast called Music Teacher Coffee Talk. And as part of that podcast, we do a work smarter, not harder teacher tip in most of our episodes, not every single one, where we share a little tidbit of information or maybe a resource that we're enjoying, just something small to help people's teaching lives be easier. And so we have compiled for you our top 10 plus one bonus. So 11 of our favorite work smarter, not harder teacher tips thus far, and there were a lot to choose from. So today we're going to talk through those 11 tips and give some ideas of things that might make your life easier in the music room. So we have 6 categories of our teacher tips, and you'll notice up at the top it says sample, and we'll talk more about why that is at the end of our session today. But we have organized all of our teacher tips into 6 different categories, and we're going to start with tech tips. And going through our past episodes, we've been recording our podcast for, gosh, how many years now, Tanya?
We are going on our 8th year of recording podcasts.
Yeah. So going back and listening and compiling some tech tips from the past, sometimes things don't always last the way you think. And of course, during the COVID times, we had a lot of tech tips that were specifically for online learning. But we've chosen a few tech tips that are just our favorite for all the time that we want to go over today. So starting with one of our most favorite apps that both Tanya and I use called Idosio. This is an app that I know works on Apple devices. Do we know, Tanya, if it works on Android devices?
I don't think it does at this time that I know of. No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just Apple devices, but preferably you want an iPad for this because you want the full screen. And what Idokio or Idosio, however you pronounce it, I don't know, I say Idokio. It is your record keeping book, your grade book. You can keep your class lists on there. You can keep seating charts on there. There is a one-time fee. It's not a subscription at this time, which is good. I believe when I paid for it, it was like $11, so it might be more than that now. And it is everything for me. It contains all of my records for my students. It does an automatic backup to whatever you want it to back up to. So for me, I have it set to my Google Drive, so it backs up to that every single day. So if I ever had a crash or whatever, I can recover, which is a good thing. One of my most favorite things, and I know Tanya's most favorite things about Idokio, is that you have the ability to take pictures of your students or upload pictures of your students. So on your seating chart, you can have their picture next to their name on the grade book as well. So, for us music teachers who see so many students, having pictures in addition to their name is super, super helpful. We would show you our own Idokio on our iPads, but it would have our students' information on it, so we don't want to do that. But in this slideshow that you are getting as a part of this presentation, you have the link right there to Idokio, which will, oops, I went too far, which will then give you all of the information about what Idokio is, but this is just kind of a snapshot of what it looks like. And there are so many customizable options for the grade book as far as how you want them to average your grades, put things into folders, categorize everything. There is a planner built in. I personally don't use the planner. I just pretty much stick with the seating plan and the grade book, but even just those 2 features are well worth it. Do you want to chime in with anything that I'm missing, Tanya?
Well, you mentioned the seating chart, and within each seating chart, you have the opportunity to make up to, I think, 10 or 12 different seating charts. So for every class, I'll have like a custom a seating chart of where they are usually. And I also have, here is the pairs that I've assigned them. Here is groups of 4 that I've assigned. And it's really easy to create these seating charts when you just pull little pictures of the kid's head around to create these seating charts. And the substitutes that come and sub for me really love having those seating charts with the pictures of the children. That is very helpful. I love the grade book as well. With the kindergartners and first graders, I take a singing in tune grade nearly every class period. And it is so easy for me to just go in and hear kids echo sing and then give them the number, or actually for kindergarten, I use icons. So that's an option in the grade book. I use like a green plus for in tune singing and so on and so forth, other icons for other things. I also use icons for if I send an email home. I make a little colored circle around a kid's picture when I've given them like a special PBIS ticket, just to keep track, to make sure that I get to more students with giving those fun tickets out. And it's just a really easy way to keep track of everything. So much easier than paper and pencil. And you can also write notes to yourself. You have little stickies. You can say, oh, this class lines up in alphabetical order, or this class has requested we do this song next time. And it's
Yeah.
just been, I've been using it for so long now, I can't imagine not using it.
I also want to mention, because I just saw it pop up here as I was scrolling, that one of my favorite things is the integration with Google Classroom as well. So if you do Google Classrooms with any grades, you can have it integrate, so it'll automatically populate, vice versa, either way, and it will also populate the grades. You can make it so they're linked and they'll talk to each other. So that's another great feature. I mean, we could do a whole thing just about iDokio. They're not
Yeah.
paying us, by the way,
No.
but it is just a really awesome app, and we just wanted to mention it because both of us love it so much. So, all right. So, Tanya, I will let you take it away with the next one, which is about YouTube.
All right. Our next tip is all about YouTube. Is that within Google Slides, and I know a lot of people do put their Google Slides together for a class, and they will put a link to the YouTube video, and you can post it right in a Google slide. But one thing that is really nice to remember is that you can start and stop a specific video at any time in the video. I was using a meditation video the other day with some younger students, and there's like a minute and a half of talking about why it's important to calm our bodies, and the students know this, so I just wanted to get to the good stuff, and I go a minute and 15 seconds in, and so now every time that slide is in presentation mode and I click play, it just starts right where I want it to. And same thing at the end, if I want to make sure that, okay, well, we've seen what we need to see, we don't need to see all the hit the subscribe button and all of that, I can just cut it short.
Yeah, that's a really great tip. I use that all the time, especially when I'm leaving videos for subs, because I'm not there to quickly, if you know something's coming, you can always try to quickly hit that pause button, before the end. But if it's a sub and you don't want to deal with that, so it's a really great tip. Our next tech tip is all about QR codes. So QR codes are a part of life. We got used to them very quickly during COVID when we were going to restaurants, and a lot of restaurants still have them. And sometimes I have folks who still are not sure how to create QR codes or think you have to pay for it. So I will say the easiest way is, if you are using Google Chrome as your browser, you can go directly in Google Chrome and create a QR code. Now it will create it with a little dinosaur image inside of it, so maybe that's not your favorite. So there are other QR code makers out there, but it's free. You should not have to ever pay to create a QR code for anything. But the easiest way to do it in Google Chrome is up in your browser. So let's say, you're sharing something from your Google Drive, you would click on this little share button, which is like the rectangle with the arrow pointing up, and you click on that and it gives you a menu, and you go to QR code and it'll give you a QR code that you can copy and paste or download and paste, however you want to do it. And it's just the easiest way to share. If you're doing something in Canva, Canva also has an option to share directly through Canva. So whether you're making a program for your concert or a slideshow for your students, because Canva has slideshows as well, you can create a QR code there easily as well. And pretty much everyone knows how to use QR codes now, so I will say for me, for my programs, I really don't do paper programs anymore. I just do QR code programs, and that's it. I might keep a very small stack of like 20 off to the side in case there's like a grandparent who really wants a paper copy, and I can just hand them to them if they ask for it. But in general, people are pretty good with QR codes. They can print things at home on their own, and especially if I'm making a program for a concert or a performance in Canva and it has all these beautiful, colorful graphics and things, I don't want to print it in color. So that way, families can print things at home on their own. So QR codes are a great thing. Just remember you can get them directly through Chrome or through Canva, and it always should be free.
Yes.
So
Okay,
let's
next
move on.
up is lesson planning, everybody's favorite. We have lots of tips that we've shared through the podcast about lesson planning, and we have whole episodes about lesson planning. So if you are not already a listener, that's a great place to start if you look at all of our podcasts from the years. But from episode 99, we talked about batching activities throughout grade levels. And that's just simply the idea of if you're doing something like using barred instruments and you have second grade come in and they're doing an activity at the barred instruments, it's really a great idea to carry that activity into the next class, next grade level. So is it something where you could have the first graders when they come in also do something on the barred instruments? It's not going to be exactly the same as what second graders did because of course your lesson's going to change with your grade level. Or you could, maybe it is appropriate to bring that activity exactly how it is into the next class. And this is really just a peace of mind thing when you're planning and when you're actually teaching a day's worth of lessons. It's really lovely to have everything set up and okay, well, second grade's doing this word dune on the instruments, but when third grade comes in, I'm adding this other bar and we're doing a crossover pattern. So it's not just about barred instruments, but also if you have a specific game, maybe you're playing poison pattern with a grade level, could you also play poison melody or poison rhythm with the other grade levels in practicing one of their concepts that they're working on? It makes planning across grade levels really much easier. So when you think of this is a week that I want everybody to play these instruments, I did this with handbells, hand chimes the other day. Is getting out those hand chimes and even getting out handbells, that is pretty arduous. And so I want to just get the most mileage out of those instruments as I can. I'm going to leave them set up on this table, and each grade's going to do a slightly different thing with them. So it's good for planning. It's good for ease throughout your teaching day.
Yes, and I'm doing this actually this coming week with stations, where I'm setting up stations, and I'm not doing them with every single grade, but I do have a chunk of grades that I see pretty much back to back, so they're all doing stations, and I'm just going to swap out what station, but the basic station layout will be the same. Even the instruments are the same. I'm just going to swap out the song or the materials or whatever that they're using. So that's a
Yep.
great tip. So our next category we're going to jump right to is classroom materials and organization. And ooh, this is a good one. There's lots of ways that you can organize and use your materials in your classroom. So one of our tips that we want to talk about is when you are singing a picture book to students. Here's an example. Today is Monday. Eric Carle is one of my favorites. And this is especially a good tip if you're doing a book like this, which is a cumulative song, where the verses keep adding on and adding on. And maybe you've been teaching a while and maybe your memory isn't as good as it used to be, talking about me. So sometimes I have a hard time remembering, what are we eating on Wednesday? What are we eating on Thursday? So a good tip is just to take a little sticky note and put it on the back of your book. So as you are holding the book up for your students and you're reading to your students, you can keep allowing them to look at the pages and you're looking at your little sticky note on the back and not having to constantly turn to see the words on the page. So it just makes a little bit more of a seamless reading experience. The kids think that you're magic because you have the whole book and song memorized, but you're just taking little quick peeks at your sticky note that you might put on the back. So great tip for that memory trick.
Oh, our next tip is about using duct tape or masking tape or washi tape to organize mallets. I enjoy using the barred instruments, but I'm very particular about what mallets go with what instrument. I do not love the sound of a hard-headed mallet on a glockenspiel, for example, or a wooden xylophone. That to me is just not a sound I want to hear. And we do know that there are mallets that are better for some instruments and not others. my bass xylophone mallets, they're bigger, they've got bigger heads. A good way to organize this and also help your students learn which mallets go with which instruments is that you can use washi tape, duct tape, masking tape of a specific color or design and put those near the head of the mallet and wrap it around. So maybe you have bright blue for those bass xylophone mallets. And then on the instrument, just a little strip of the same type of tape, the same color on top of the bass xylophone. If kids go and get mallets, they can look at their instrument and go, oh, I'm looking for bright blue tape mallets. And they go over there. So I've done this with glockenspiel mallets because you think, well, these are tiny mallets. Who would think to take this mallet and bring it over to a alto xylophone? But they will do that. So I know some people have things that they attach the mallets to the instrument. That has not worked well for me. I've tried that this year and the little pencil grips, they kind of fall off a lot. So I just have taped up mallets. Kids are able to go and just make that correlation and they're ready to go. I also have not gone this step at my new school, but at my previous school, I used coffee cans that were metal coffee cans and stripped off the paper. And I put the washi tape all around the coffee can of specific mallets. So all of my xylophone wooden barred instruments, all of those mallets that had this blue washi tape on it, they went into the can that had the same blue washi tape, and that's connected to the xylophone that has that same blue washi tape. This does take a little while, but it really pays off. At my last school, I think I did it probably 7 years before I left that school, and that system just worked really well. And the kids, as they went from kindergarten all the way through the grades, they understood.
Yeah, that's great. And I love giving students more ownership for organizing and getting out their own materials. Less work
Yeah.
for you. So let's talk more about organization. So Tanya and I are big fans of manipulatives of all kinds. We love things like mini erasers to do melodic dictation on a staff, or foam shapes, or popsicle sticks for writing rhythms in various sizes. So after you're teaching a while, you tend to accumulate a lot of manipulatives, and you want to make it easy for yourself and possibly even your students to go into a cabinet and find what you need. So Tanya and I are big fans of clear containers. First of all, shoebox size containers work really well for a lot of these types of manipulatives. But the most important thing is, whether it's clear or not, to have really good large size labels in color, to take the time to do that, to print a picture. So as you can see here, you can see Tanya's B erasers. So if I were to say to a second grade student, I need you to go get the B erasers from the cabinet, if that's an accessible cabinet, they would be able to do that really easily. So taking the time to separate things into separate containers, clear containers with lids so you can stack them, and then big giant labels are a really great way to organize small manipulatives like this.
Yes. And this is one of my closets. I'm very proud. It did take a minute for me to create all these labels, but it has been so valuable to have all of this because I can be across the room and think, wow, where do I have those snail erasers? Do I have the stars? And with a glance, I can see that, yep, there they are. And we're ready to go. Within those containers, those clear shoebox like containers, are little condiment cups. They are 2-ounce condiment cups with clear lids. The condiment cup is clear, something that you might squirt ketchup in. The 2-ounce are about perfect to hold 8 mini erasers. So as far as the mini erasers go, each one of those boxes that has mini erasers has 8 in a 2-ounce condiment cup. And within every box, there's 30 of those. I always want to make sure I have extra on hand in case I lose some. So it took a while to organize, but very much worth it.
And I'll share a bonus tip, if I may, Tanya, because I'm noticing in this picture you also have seasonal things like St. Patrick's Day and Halloween. If you don't have enough space to hold all of your manipulatives in one place, one tip that I have is to have big, oversized, like they're kind of like sweater bags that you can store specific manipulatives for seasons. So I have a whole fall bag, and so I get that out and bring it into my room during fall so I can grab those manipulatives when I need them. But then when fall is done, those get stored on the stage. So it's something that I can still access if I need to, but it's not right there in my room readily available. So I have a fall bag, I have a winter bag, which I include Valentine's Day in there, and then I have a spring bag that's for all of the spring holidays and animals and all those kind of things. So that's like my overflow for some of those seasonal things. And then the things that are in my room all year are things that are like stars I see and snails. These are the things that I could pull any time of the year. But my pumpkins and ghosts might only come out in the fall. So just another little bonus tip about that kind of stuff. All right, we are moving on to our next category about classroom management and building relationships because those things go hand in hand. So let's talk about That's Me, Tanya.
Oh, this is just a really fun, simple community building game that I've used before. And I've also seen variations of it. It's where you can do this in a circle. You could also do this not in a circle, scattered around the room with kids. And you have one student that goes first, or maybe the teacher goes first, who says something like, I have a dog. And everyone else who has a dog can stand up or raise a hand and go, That's me. Um, and then you go on to someone else who said, That's me. They get to pick something to say, like, I love hot chocolate. And everyone who does says, That's me. Now, you could also make this musical. You could have them sing it. You could say, I love skiing in winter. That's me. So you could make it musical. You don't have to, but it is a fun community building thing. I've also seen a version of this where everyone is in a circle and someone goes to the middle and says, I love people who love sunsets. And then everyone has to do a certain action if they do, or a different action if they don't. So it's just one of those things that builds community. It's a fun thing to do at the very end of a class period or the very beginning of a class period where kids do that whole, oh, look, there's people who think like I think, who like the things I think. And it's just a really fun way to do that.
Love that.
It's nice to be appreciated.
So we are always trying to find ways to protect our voice. So this also kind of goes into a self-care tip, but it's a classroom management strategy as well because it's an engagement strategy. And it's just the simple idea of anytime you can get your kids to do the talking, have them do it instead of you. So if you are numbering students off 1, 2, 1, 2, you point to the first kid, say 1, 2, and then you drop off and make them finish counting the rest of the way. If you're creating a double circle for students to do a song or a game like Tidy-O, where you need to be in a double circle, you could say in, out, and then have them continue in, out, and then have all the students who are in, step in, face the student who is out. So just a really simple reminder that anytime you can save your voice, it adds up. And it also forces the kids to be engaged and pay attention because they have to know what their number is or what their assignment or their job is.
I have a bonus tip in relation to this.
Love it.
If you are doing a circle and you're doing the numbering off because you want an inside circle and an outside circle because it relates to a specific song and game, it's really nice to keep it within the context of that. You mentioned Tidy-O, and we sing Jingle at the Window, Tidy-O. And so I have the kids go around saying jingle or window. And after we've all gone around, I say, if you said jingle, step in. If you said window, you're a window on the outside. So it's kind of fun to keep that context of whatever song that you happen to be doing.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's going to be more concrete than remembering a number. I know anytime I'm in a group activity, like a staff meeting, and we have to number off, I'm always like that person that's like holding my number on my cheek so I don't forget it. But if you told me jingle or window, I feel like I would remember that easier. So that's a great bonus tip. Love it.
Yes. Our next category is all about everyone's favorite thing, productivity and time management, which we all want to get a handle on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in on this one because this is something that I have at my school currently. And, it depends on if you have this space available to you or not, but something that I love to have outside of my classroom is an information center. So a bulletin board that is designated specifically for papers and information. So anytime I send home a paper to students, whether it's a permission slip for a field trip, a concert announcement, information of how to join choir, I always make an extra stack of 20, let's say, and then outside of my classroom on my information bulletin board, I take file folders and I basically staple them so that the top is still open, and I put extra papers in the file folder, and then I tape one to the front of the file folder so you can easily see what it is, so that way students can help themselves to any paper that they are missing. Because I don't know about you, but if I have a student who loses a permission slip in 4th grade, I might be in the middle of teaching 2nd grade, they have no idea what my schedule is, and they come wandering down at lunchtime because they need a new paper, so then they come in and they want to interrupt me. So this allows me just to say to the students that all the extra papers are outside the bulletin on the bulletin board. Most students know this by now, so they don't even have to ask. Also, bonus tip, make sure teachers know because sometimes teachers will send students down to get extra things. But if I remind the teachers that there are papers outside of my room, then I can keep teaching, my door can be closed, and students don't have to interrupt me. So this has been a great tip for me to curb interruptions to my teaching day. Oh, wrong way. All right.
Yeah. So teacher self-care, we have more tips than this, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But one of our top tips as far as teacher self-care is about finding your community. You've heard it said many times that we feel like we are islands within our school because you're usually the only person in the school doing what you do. You might be able to connect with other people in your district or neighboring schools, but that can be few and far between. And so our advice is to find your community. Maybe you find your community through people, music teachers that you have seen on social media. There are Facebook groups, there are Instagram music teachers that you can follow. There are podcasts that you should be listening to. There are blogs, TPT sellers. There's no shortage of people out there who are putting themselves out there as elementary music teachers that you can glean ideas from and get support from. One of our favorite music teacher communities is OAK, the Organization of American Kodály Educators. And both of us generally go to their yearly conference. And it's a wonderful time for us to reconnect with our music teacher community. We also have a music teacher community within our district, but I think this is being mid-year, I think we've only seen each other like 3 times. So it's really great that in these days we can find our community, we can find more of a community online. It's really important that you take time to find people whose philosophy and their teaching style kind of align with what you already believe. You're not going to learn how to teach music through a podcast or through a Facebook group. However, you are going to meet people that will support you and who have gone through what you're going through and who might have ideas on how you can work on your professional music teaching life. So that's something that I think is just a tip that you must have if you're going to have any kind of longevity teaching music.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
And
with that, we have an announcement.
Yeah. So this slide deck was just a few of our Work Smarter, Not Harder teacher tips. As Carrie had mentioned before, our podcast has been going, we're going on our 8th year now. And not every single episode has a Work Smarter, Not Harder teacher tip, but I think we did start doing them around episode 50. So what Carrie and I have done is we have compiled a slide deck like what you see that has every Work Smarter, Not Harder teacher tip that we have mentioned on our podcast. Now, you could go and listen to every single episode, and we hope you do, and just find the Work Smarter, Not Harder teacher tips. But since we have compiled them, this is one of the things that we would like to offer anyone who would join our Buy Me a Coffee membership. We are connected to Buy Me a Coffee, where you can go and give us a $5 donation. But now we have two membership options if you want to continue being a member of the Music Teacher Coffee Talk community. So we have the solo single shot option, in which you get this growing Work Smarter, Not Harder slide deck of all of our wonderful tips. Also, you'll be supporting us on a monthly basis. Uh, we will also be giving exclusive posts and messages to the people who are at the $5 a month solo single shot of Buy Me a Coffee membership. And we have a few freebies. The rhythm card tents that I have made and sold on Teachers Pay Teachers forever. I'll be giving those to anyone who joins a membership. If you join the $15 a month membership, then we're giving you all the things that you get in the solo single shot membership, where you have the Work Smarter, Not Harder teacher tip deck, plus exclusive posts and messages from us. Then there's also three freebies from my Teacher Pay Teacher store. And then we will also be doing an exclusive access for those $15 a month members, a 45-minute Q&A each month with us, Tanya and Carrie. So those are the two membership levels that we have just opened recently. We would love for you to become a member. The podcast is free and always will be free. So even if you're not able to become a member of our community, we hope you are a member of our community just by listening to the podcasts. And we're really excited to launch this membership.
So thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you got a few new tips, and you might consider getting some more tips by becoming a member at our Buy Me a Coffee site. And have a wonderful rest of your day.